Well, I always want to communicate something.
Yeah.
That's always at the core of my work. And other people, it is too, but sometimes it's less so much. Like I'm literally spelling something out, and I want people to eventually be able to work out what it says and have that, oh, it says this. Oh, that's, why did he say that? Oh. I needed to learn a trade that I could leave and get a job.
So I was curious about that because I know that you worked in graphic design, still do, I think a little bit, not anymore.
Not
okay.
At all, no.
Okay. So, but you did for a period of time, and there is always this like, how am I going to make money? I mean, maybe, and I don't know, you can shed some light on this. Maybe people today, young artists, can connect dots a little bit easier on career path. But, there is, like even in my case, I studied architecture and city planning, but I wasn't sure how I was going to turn that into a career. Like real estate development wasn't something that I really saw a path forward to. So I just like got a job.
Yeah.
Right. And so especially with artists, there seems to be a disconnect, or maybe there was a bigger one on how do I actually like pay my rent? And I'm curious, how much of that played a role in why you went into graphic design, or were you just, did you like it, love it?
Yeah. I mean, I think about that a lot now, especially because obviously my mum, although she was an actor and had times when she was on TV, my stepdad wasn't really earning. So I didn't come from a house that was all about earning money. It wasn't something we talked about. I never went without stuff. Like, it's not like we were in poverty or anything like that. But we didn't, we weren't, just wasn't really a thing. So I think for me, I didn't grow up with this kind of desire to make a lot of money. Maybe I'd seen as an example that you can be happy and live your life without having a lot of money, just having enough. So although I took this decision because of what you're saying, so that I could have a thing, it was never like, I'm going to make lots of money doing graphic design. It's like, well, I better have a job.
Yeah.
So I guess this is what it's going to be, because sitting in my room and painting a canvas isn't realistic. In fact, I remember at the time thinking to myself, I can always make a painting.
Yeah.
Like I can always do that.
Did having the job though, did it allow you to have, things so you could have basic needs so that you could also paint? Or did you ever feel like you couldn't do the kinds of things you wanted to do artistically because you were so busy with your career, your day life?
100%.
Yeah, my son
100%.
actually has been talking a little bit about that. He likes to write and wants to be a writer, and is thinking about like, but he needs a job.
Yeah.
And if you have a job, do you have the energy to write? There's a bit of a dilemma there.
It's great, and I have a great story, but I'll keep it short. But basically, what happened was I studied graphic design. I graduated. I fell in love with graphic design because I got a computer in my second year of university. I did all of my studies up to the end of my first year of my degree without a computer.
Wow.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
I mean, people just didn't have them in their homes. I mean, it wasn't a thing. I didn't have one.
Right.
I was drawing everything. So once I got the computer, then I fell in love with Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, making print layouts. Like, whoa. And then I got into working at magazines. And when I graduated my design course, I started designing a fashion magazine. And me and my boss, the art director, we did that for like 4.5 years. So I've cut my teeth really making type and image layouts for high-end fashion magazines. And then eventually had my own business doing branding for fashion brands. We had our own fashion magazine. We did that for like 5.5 years. So it was like almost 9 years really working in that world. But the whole time I was painting graffiti on the weekend for fun, not going out at night doing illegal stuff, but like going and spending a whole day doing what we were talking about, pushing the idea of graffiti, pushing the aesthetic, just for fun with my friends, because it would be something you'd meet up and do with all your friends on a weekend afternoon. And it just started to pick up traction, I guess, maybe because I was working, well, I guess just started to get better, I guess. I don't know. It started to pick up traction to a point where it was like, holy shit, like I'm seeing my friends start to make a living doing this. And it was one day, like a business. I was running it with 2 other people for a bit, and then eventually was running it by myself. And it was one day I was in the car with my mum, and I was kind of at a crossroads with it because I'd been doing it by myself for a year or 2. And she was like, why don't you do something with your graffiti, your painting? You always really loved that. Why don't you just do something with that? And it was kind of just like, from that moment on, I was just like, obviously, of course. And it took 5 years from that conversation to be full time, just doing my Pref stuff. I guess.
Yeah.
Because it took 5 years to develop like a whole idea of what that was going to be.
Sure.
I knew that I was never going to make money or make a career painting small graffiti walls. I mean, that was never my ambition. It was just fun to do that. So I spent 5 years kind of creating a world for that to be in, that I could sort of begin to try and.
Yeah, I have a bunch of questions based on what you've just shared. Let me just start with your mom, brings something forward that is like a real light bulb for you. Seems, like it might have been kind of right in front of you, right?
Yeah.
But, how important is it to get this validation? You said it about kind of the graphic design work too, where you're doing something and people are seeing you and your skill and they're validating it.
Yeah.
How important is that? And how kind of, I would think I know in my own little experimentation with being an artist, it can be tricky. It could be maybe a double-edged sword too, because you don't want to fall into like people pleasing, or it's all about selling something, or other validation credentials. But there's some level of it that seems to actually be helpful too.
The validation,
yeah, the feedback. I
think if you really go into it from a sort of psychological point of view, absolutely. I think on a more surface level, there's an instant gratification in seeing something progress for me.
Yeah.
Being able to think outside of the box and push that in a place where people are surprised about, and I surprise myself. My early, really experimental graffiti stuff, I often didn't have a sketch. So I didn't know what I was going to do when I showed up in the morning, and I'd come back with something that I was like, whoa, how did I even do that? So I think there's that instant, a bit like cleaning the house, you get like an instant gratification. But probably from a more psychological point of view, yeah, I think being a child of 2 parents that separated young, having that validation, and obviously from the stories that I've told, it's clear that, getting that validation is something that I found rewarding, and was able to use that as motivation to continue. And I didn't think about it at the time, but probably that was playing into, me feeling good about that. Perhaps when you're, parents separating for a kid, it can, leave that gap sometimes of feeling like, was it my fault? Like, obviously I never thought that, but I think there's elements of that kind of thing that, yeah, for sure.
And today I'm kind of curious at this point, when you think about starting a piece of work or a concept, or as you're working on it, how much, if at all, do you, still worry about how it's going to turn out, or, maybe what people are going to think if whoever hired you is happy? Does that factor in still to some extent?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the mural process is different because by the time I've started painting it, everybody already knows what it's going to be. And it always looks exactly like the design because of the process and the sort of formula. So the mural painting is different in that I just get to enjoy the process of painting it once I start. You know, there's a worry, am I going to run out of this color or that color and stuff. But yeah, that sort of comes before, I guess, when I'm thinking about the ideas and I'm conjuring up what is going to go on this wall, because it's always got to be a mixture of where I'm going with my journey of my work and also trying to make it work in context as well, which is also really important for me. And some artists are happy ignoring the context in some ways. They're very much, they do their thing and it just goes wherever that's going to go. But maybe it's my graphic design background, or I really enjoy having a brief. And I think from a young age, I always thought in my head, like, if you want to make a unique piece of work, you have to capitalize on what is unique about the situation. I mean, from a creative point of view, you know, like,
the context.
Yeah. For example, you know, the wall that I had for this festival was a right angle corner. And I tried to think of stuff that would really use this corner, but I didn't want to go down a sort of gimmicky kind of route because a lot of my work in the past, I felt, you know, the more word joke, word trick things gets into a gimmicky kind of area that I want to kind of stay away from in some degree. But I chose the word embrace because it really felt, and I filled the letters more than I have before on anything, because I really wanted it to feel full and like it was wrapping around you when you were down there looking at it. Sorry. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about at the time. You know, every design I do, I want it to work with in all of these different ways. You know, does it make sense with the last piece I did? Is it making sense going forward to the next piece I want to do? Is it enough of a kind of step forward?
It feels like a very healthy relationship with the desire for the outcome to be what it is.
Yeah.
You know, which, you know, I think there is a healthy way to be with that, you know, that it's more of a passion and a love and a care about what you're doing, what you're creating, than it is like, I hope people like it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I always want to communicate something.
Yeah.
That's always at the core of my work.
Yeah.
And other people it is too, but sometimes it's less so much, you know, point.
Yeah.
Some ways, like I'm literally saying a word.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally spelling something out, and I want people to eventually be able to work out what it says and have that, oh, it says this. Oh, that's, why did he say that? Oh, maybe because of this, maybe because of that. You know?
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm kind of struck by, I don't know if there's any connection, but there seems to be one to me. You know, really part of the reason why I like to do this, format with the podcast is because you can kind of look back and really see how your life informs, if you let it, you know, if you choose to include all of the pieces into your life presently and you know, go forward, you know, you can really see how it can serve you, you know. And so I'm just kind of laughing to myself because, you know, when I think about embrace, you know, and this structure, this right angle of this garage, and the meaning of the word and the multiple meanings of the word and the depth of what you're creating, you know, I'm thinking of the flashlight on the phone. You know, that, you know, you have been playing with words and, you know, you've been aware that you don't want it to be gimmicky, and there is meaning yet still in the words and the way that you're creating that, you know, does, you know, kind of bring physical and emotional and a lot of, you know, elements into the work.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always an autobiographical aspect to it too, because when I'm thinking of words, yes, I always choose words that have a multiple meaning, but one of them always has to really resonate with me. You know, and there's always an aspect of it that, yeah, it's autobiographical. So embracing is, you know, yeah, it's just, yeah, it is obviously the brief. It is what you had described. I wanted it to embrace the environment. I really loved that when I put the design on there, it was the same colors as the Chore Boogie one on the side. It was like, whoa, that was like it.
Oh, it's so cool.
It's like it was designed together.
Right.
You know? So like in terms of embracing the environment, I thought that really worked well too.